Hello and welcome to Yoga with Carolynne. With registration opening next week for the winter live stream yoga classes, I thought that it would be nice to share with you a full-length recording from this past season's live stream yoga classes. So this practice that I'm sharing here with you it was one of my favorite classes because it was just like so gentle, so restful, so slow. This is one of the morning classes that's part of the schedule, and this time slot is going to be available in the new schedule that is launching next Monday. So I hope that you enjoy this restful, cozy, relaxing, gentle yoga class. And if you enjoyed today's practice, then I would strongly recommend that you click on the link in the description box below. That will sign you up for the newsletter, and then you can be the first to know when registration opens. Enjoy your class. Welcome to Yoga with Carolynne, teaching empaths and sensitive souls just like you how to create a collaborative relationship with your body through cozy, accessible yoga and self-care practices in order to live a life filled with less doing and more being. Today we rest. So this is going to be a very slow, very low to the ground practice. We're gonna move. When we do move, it'll be slow and gentle, and we're gonna be holding lots of stillness. So I would love for you to start today's practice in whatever shape you want. Like whatever shape you're like, oh, I just like, this is what I want. I want to be seated because I know that helps me settle into my practice, or I want to be on my back because that feels good, or a child's pose, or heck, on the front line of your body, coming all the way down towards the ground. Really just like whatever props you have really help facilitate this first shape. Because really resting for all of us can look different. Some of us really like, yes, rest is like, that's my jam. I can be still. But for some of us, maybe rest feels like a little bit of a more kind of foreign thing. And so I would really like for you to choose what that pose can look like to help really facilitate your restful practice today. If you haven't clicked play on that playlist, I would invite you to do so if you're listening to it this morning. Do any last shifts, adjustments in the physical body in order for you to eventually be able to settle into stillness. Noticing whatever areas of your body are in contact with the floor, and inviting like a heaviness and a letting go into the support of the floor. And at the beginning of the practice here, as you feel the ground, the earth beneath your body, we take a moment together to collectively acknowledge the land on which you practice today, and cultivating gratitude for its original caretakers. My words this morning are going to be pretty minimal so that you can just not have to listen to me the whole time. No, but just enjoy kind of the silence and the pause But know that if at any point you notice your mind wandering or thinking about the day ahead or about the sleep that you had, you can come back at any moment. Come back to the breath, come back to the music, come back to your body. We're going to be starting and ending today's practice with some pranayama, breathwork, breathing exercise, intentional breathing. But in order to do that, first, if you haven't yet, allow your awareness to catch on to your breath. Notice your breath. Feel your breath. So as always, everything that I offer is an invitation or a suggestion. It is not mandatory. If this breath just doesn't feel good, it's not very complicated, and it's not an energizing breath, obviously. But if it just doesn't feel good, you don't have to do it, and you can just stay with your regular breathing pattern. If you've been to my class before, you've most likely done this one. It's called square breath, 4-count breath. It can be a really balancing breath. So I'm going to guide you through the first few rounds, but then I'm going to let you guide yourself because my count might be a little shorter or longer than yours. So let's take the first just regular breath together. You'll take an inhale into your belly. Exhale out the nose. And then we'll begin. You'll take an inhale for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let the breath go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we continue. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let it go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And continue with that. Counting in your mind. You can even visualize as you inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Visualize yourself tracing a square from side, around the corner, down, up again. The next time you find yourself at the end of your exhale, Let that breathing pattern go and allow yourself to just come back into your regular breathing. We're going to be spending the next portion of the practice in a seated position, but take your time. If you are already seated, then you can just stay there and begin to incorporate some movement. If you're on your back, take your time, bring some movement into the fingers and the toes, wrists and the ankles, and eventually you'll roll onto one side of the body and bring yourself up. If you're in a child's pose, slowly slide the hands under the shoulders. And allow yourself to really embrace your inner sloth and your inner cat. Wouldn't that be an interesting combination of an animal? So that once eventually you're making your way into your seated position, you let it be really cozy, really comfy. So maybe you want to lay a blanket across your legs. You prop yourself maybe a little bit higher than you might usually. Maybe if you're usually using a cushion, you're using a bolster today. We're going to be in this shape for a little while, really exploring all the range of motion that your torso can explore here, just stretching it all out. So I'd really like for you to make sure that this shape feels good so that you're not getting any sort of discomfort in your low back or your hips or your knees. And then before we find that movement, if you're new to being seated this morning, just let yourself settle in, feel your sit bones in contact with the prop or the floor. Allow your hands to connect to your body somewhere, the lap, the knees, palm face down or palm face up. This is a really grounding practice. So in order to really facilitate that, I would recommend having the palms face down. And then we'll be starting with bringing some stretch in the neck. So we did this a few weeks ago. So you'll start with taking an inhale right here, just like your breath. Inhale. On your exhale, you'll drop the chin down towards the chest. So take a moment here to readjust in the shoulders, allowing the shoulders to slide down away from the ears. And then you'll be making your way over towards the left. So rolling the left ear towards the left shoulder. And then before you pause in stillness, take a moment to kind of move the chin around. So maybe shaking the head side to side, like as if you're saying no, or going up and down, like as if you're saying yes with the head. Let it be really slow to notice where you feel tension or tightness in the right side of the neck. And then eventually you'll come into a spot where, as you were exploring, you really felt it. And then you're going to pause right here. So I'm giving you options. As always, they're just options. You can keep the hands exactly as they are if you'd like. If you'd like to explore a little bit more, you'd pick up in the left hand and place the palm of the hand on your chest. So if you've got like a shirt there, then you're just kind of gripping onto the shirt. But if you've got your skin exposed a little bit, you can kind of use your pads of your fingers to grip on the skin. Notice if that changes anything. You can kind of explore by pulling the the skin of the chest down towards your left knee. And you can stay right here. Maybe you've found a spot where you're like, whoa, hello. I'm going to just focus on that. You can also pick up into the right hand and place your fingertips on your neck and just like graze the fingertips down the front, the side. And let's release just as slowly. So if the right hand is in contact with your body, bring it back down. And then releasing the left hand back down. And then dropping the chin back down towards the chest. And then pause there for a moment. Maybe you want to keep that chin tucked in, kind of really internal focus, or you're welcome to bring the head back into center for a moment just to pause and notice the difference between the right and the left side. If your chin is not tucked in towards your chest, you'll then drop it down and then roll over towards the right side. So first you find movement. Let it be really just like exploratory. Maybe it's that side to side or up and down, or it's like circled a little bit with the tip of your nose. And then you'll come into stillness, finding a spot where you really, it like piqued your attention a little bit. And then you can stay right here. Or you can pick up into the right hand this time, place that onto your chest, and kind of use the grip of the hand to pull the skin on your chest down towards your right knee. Then you can stay right here, or you can pick up into the left hand and place your fingertips along your neck and just like slide the fingertips down and then back up again and then down again. So to release, let it be like one movement at a time. So you'll start with one hand to come onto the knee, and then the next hand comes onto the knee. Be like really aware of the movement as it happens. And then you drop the chin back down towards the chest. You can stay there for a moment. And when you're ready, you bring the head back into center. Eyelids can stay heavy during all of this. We'll now explore some movement in the body. So we'll start with just some circles in the spine. So uncomplicated, really simple, just beginning to be led by your inhale to cross the heart in front of you and then circling back. Maybe it starts like really small, really slow. You can stay with that, or maybe the movement becomes a little bit bigger, a little bit more fluid, moving into the shoulders, maybe moving into the head. Feeling the root of this movement, so your tailbone stays really grounded and settled on the prop beneath your body. In your own time, in your own way, you'll begin to move in the opposite direction. And then back into center. We'll stay with that movement in the spine. So you come back into stillness. And if the hands are not palm face down in the knees, you'll bring them there. We'll come into some seated cat cows. You'll take an inhale to open the heart forward. The chin reaches up towards the sky. And then as you exhale, you start at the base of your spine. So tip the tailbone, then ripple up the spine to spread the shoulder blades, then the chin tucks in. And then that's your movement, moving front and back. Every single movement is being led by your breath. Allowing yourself to just like not even think about it, because all you're having to do is just follow along with your rhythm and pattern of breath. You can stay with this movement, which is keeping the hands on the knees, or if you want to bring it into the shoulders, the next time you inhale, you can reach the hands behind you with the palms forward. And as you exhale, you can reach the fingertips in front of you, really like spread the fingertips. And then do that a few more times. But if you come into that and it doesn't really feel good, it feels like too open and you want to stay pretty kind of closed and grounded, then keep the hands on the knees. Without worrying about getting any of this perfect. A lot of this is just like me having invented it from my own practice. So you can kind of like add extra movements into it, pause at any point if it feels like really good and you just want to hang out there. After that movement, you'll then come back into stillness, allowing the hands to come back onto the knees if they were not. You rest in between that movement, noticing if your breath kind of reaches into corners that it wasn't able to at the beginning, after you've begun to create that space in your entire torso. And we'll keep exploring creating that spaciousness in your torso here. So from here, you'll bring the left hand down onto the floor, and then you'll reach the right hand up towards the sky. So we're finding a side body stretch just to start. So you kind of crawl the fingertips away from the body to then press your left palm of the hand down onto the floor. The reason that you press that hand down is that you can then kind of press away from the floor, creating not only space on the right side of the body, but also the left. We're going to continue with that slow movement. So as you inhale, open the heart towards the sky. And as you exhale, reach into the right hand to reach up and forward and down towards the ground. If you can reach the floor, bring the right palm of the hand down. Pause at the end of the exhale. And then slowly take an inhale to reach the right hand back up towards the sky. Open the heart towards the sky. And then exhale, bring it down. The palm of the right hand comes down on the floor. And then you inhale, bring it back up a few more times like that. The next time your hand reaches up towards the sky, you're going to pause there and just like press yourself up a little bit more just to reach the right hand out towards the side, and then just circle into that wrist. And then you'll lower the right hand down onto the floor and bring yourself back into center. Like maybe you need to adjust and shift for a moment. And then we'll do that on the other side. So keep the right hand down on the floor. Inhale, reach the left hand up. Exhale, bring it over. So pause here for a moment. Find this stretch. Feel the floor beneath you. Use it to help support and facilitate that stretch. And then you'll move. Inhale, open the heart. Reach the left hand back. Exhale, left hand reaches up and forward and down away from that right knee to plant the hand down onto the floor. You pause at the end of the exhale and then inhale as you bring yourself back up. Nice and slow. Keep going. The next time that left hand reaches up, you'll pause there and then bring yourself up a little bit so then you can reach that left hand out towards the side and then just circle into that wrist. And then releasing that, hand comes down. Okay, you've been seated for a while. Let's stretch out those legs of yours. So if you've got a blanket on your legs, you'll move those out of the way and you'll move the prop from beneath your sit bones and you'll make your way into your tabletop position, coming onto your hands and your knees. But we're still moving really slow, staying really low to the ground here. Once you make your way into your tabletop position, I'm going to let you explore any sort of movement that would feel really nice in your spine or your hips. So if you want to find more cat-cow, you can, or some circle in the spine, or maybe it's some circles in the hips. And then you'll bring yourself back into stillness and stretching out the back of your legs. So keeping the left knee down onto the floor, you'll straighten into the right leg to curl the toes under and then reach the heel of the right foot back and kind of rock back and forth here. And then you'll do that on the other side. So you'll bring the right knee back down towards the floor and then straighten into the left leg, curl the toes under, and then reach that heel back and then rocking back and forth. And then you'll bring the left knee down towards the floor and we're coming into a downward facing dog. We're not going to be holding it for too long. It's the only one we're doing today, but it's just going to be like a nice way for you to just like stretch out the entire body. You're also, as always, welcome to skip it, but you'll spread wide in the fingertips, curl the toes under and straighten into the legs to send the hips up and back. Really, this is like the first shape in which your whole body is really part of the movement, part of the shape. So it can be just like really still. If you want it to be really still, you take a moment to like adjust your hands and your feet so that it feels grounding in all four limbs. Or maybe there's some like really big movement happening in your body. You're bending generously into both of your knees or one knee to the other, circling into the neck, rolling back and forth, like in and out of like a plank, if that would feel really nice, just to explore. You'll be here for just one more moment or two. You're also welcome to lift into one leg and circle into that hip And then do that on the other side. If you're on tabletop, you can do that there as well. And let's take 3 releasing breaths in whatever shape that you're in before we come back down. So big inhale at the sides of your ribs. Out the mouth, let it go. 2 more like that at your own pace. Go ahead. Once you've taken that last exhale, you'll bring the knees back down if you're still in your downward facing dog. And then let's give those wrists a break. So you'll bring yourself all the way down onto the front line of your body. So we're now coming into a little bit more stillness. So before we come into the shape, it's going to be just like a really simple shape. You'll just bring yourself all the way down towards the floor. You can stack the hands on top of each other and bring the forehead down. So I will tell you what we're going to be exploring next, just because I know for myself, it's kind of nice when I know what's coming. We're going to be exploring a really gentle stretch for the hip by doing half frog pose, but then exploring it with 3 different positions of your spine. And we'll be holding each of those poses for about 1.5 minutes. So you'll start with just coming into your half frog pose. So you'll slide the right knee out towards the side. If your knee is uncomfortable being on the floor, if it's off of your mat, then you can place a folded up blanket underneath of your right knee. So you're finding a 90-degree angle in that leg. So knee in line with the hip, ankle in line with the knee, and then toes pointing out. And then this is where we start. So you just bring yourself back down if you've adjusted in any way. And then we're here for about 1.5 minutes. So for the next variation of this pose, you don't have to move the leg at all. You're just going to be finding a side body stretch with your torso. So you'll pick up slightly into the body so that then you can walk your torso over towards the right side of your space. And then you stack the hands on top of each other and you bring the forehead back down towards the hands. So again, your torso is walking over towards the right so that you've got less distance in between your right elbow and your right knee. Bring yourself back into center. And then the last shape that you're taking is coming into Sphinx Pose. So you're keeping the right leg exactly as it is, and you press yourself up onto your forearms. It's a little bit of a different variation in Sphinx Pose, with the right knee being out towards the side. If you're wanting to really keep exploring that rest, that grounding, if your block is nearby, you can place your block in its highest height to come underneath of your forehead. Every exhale invites in that softness, that heaviness. And then slowly, if the block is under your forehead, you'll pick your head up, move the block out of the way, and then you'll open up into the elbows to bring your body back down towards the floor, and then releasing that right leg. Let it be slow. You've been in that shape with that leg for a while. Coming back into center, and maybe it's just totally still in between one side and the other, or maybe there's some movement that comes in, shimmying into the hips or bending into the legs to allow the feet to fall from side to side. If you've been on the front line of your body for too long and you want to release to come into a child's pose for a moment, you're more than welcome to. And then we'll come into that little sequence on the other side. So you will be allowing the left knee to come out towards the side to start, and then the torso is just going to be in the center to start. So finding that 90-degree angle with that left leg. And then the torso comes down and you just breathe in the center. And then we'll get ready to come into the second shape. So the side body stretch. So you'll just pick up into your torso just enough so that you can walk your body over towards that left knee. Finding that stretch along the right side of your body, and then you stack your hands again, and then you bring the forehead down. And then the last shape, you'll bring your torso back into center, and then coming up into your Sphinx pose. So pressing the elbows down onto the floor, connecting the forearms down, spreading the fingers wide to really create a nice big foundation for the palms of your hands to support your body. You can grab hold of that block again if you'd like to place it underneath of your forehead. This is the very last shape that we're taking before Shavasana. Really let it get heavy. It can be filled with sighs. And the release is nice and slow. You open the elbows, move that block out of the way, bring yourself back down, and then bring the left leg back into center and pause right here on the floor for a moment. And then you're gonna press yourself up to then bring yourself into seated or whatever to prep yourself for your Shavasana. So I would love for you to let this be like, use all the props, let it be the comfiest. I'm going to show you what I recommend if you do have blocks and bolster. You can also do this with just your bolster or a couple of cushions. So you'll place your blocks. So this is where my feet are going to go. Your blocks in their highest height, if that's going to still be stable. And then you place your bolster onto that. This is such a nice way to really like elicit full grounding, full restorative shape in your body to come into Shavasana. And also, if you have another pillow or like a meditation cushion or a folded up blanket, I would suggest that you keep that nearby so that you can place that on your body to also help facilitate some grounding. And then grab your blanket so that you can cover your body here. So you bring yourself close to this little building that you've created with whatever props that you have, and you're placing the back of your legs on this support. So if you come into it and you're like, oh, this is too high or it doesn't feel good, then adjust it. You're aiming to find a really nice, generous bend to your legs, and then you bring yourself down onto your back. And then if you've got something that has a little bit of weight to it, I would encourage you to place that on your lower belly and kind of like spread it down so that it's nice and covering your body here. And you can cover yourself with a blanket as well, bringing yourself all the way down onto the floor, doing any sort of last adjustments in the shoulders, circle in the ankles, or kind of scrunching the toes for a moment to then be able to come into stillness. As you lay your wonderful and beautiful body back down onto the floor, not only is this Shavasana going to be really long, but let's guide you into the Shavasana with some breath that will help just add to the rest and the stillness. So in essence, when you are incorporating a longer exhale into the way in which you breathe, it does so much in terms of soothing your nervous system, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, slowing down the heart rate, just encouraging softness and relaxation in your physical muscles. And so in order to do that, for the next few rounds of breath, I would like for you to just count the length of your inhales and your exhales. We're just like counting to take stock and notice what your length of inhales and exhales are here. Just like your natural rhythm. Do you naturally breathe at a count of 4 or 5 or 6 or 8? And then whatever your natural count of breath is, you will continue with that length of breath for your inhale, and then for your exhale, add an extra 2 counts. So for example, if your inhale and exhales are the count of 4, you'll inhale on a count of 4. And as you exhale, you'll count out to 6. So whatever that is, you'll do that for a few rounds. Every exhale, you're adding on an extra 2 counts. You'll do one more round. And then the next time you finish that exhale, let that breathing pattern go and just allow your body to breathe as it naturally does. And there's no more doing here. Simply being. If you would like to stay in this shape, then by all means, please do. If, however, you would like to bring this morning's practice to a close, allow this release out of this morning's Shavasana to be like even slower than you usually would. So starting just with really deepening that breath. And then gently, slowly, softly, all of those words, bringing some tiny movement into the fingers and the toes, and the wrists and the ankles, and the head rocks from side to side. The movements eventually come a little bit bigger. You're welcome to stretch the arms up overhead. And then bring the knees in towards the chest. Rocking from side to side to eventually bring yourself onto the right side of the body. Resting here on your side for a moment. Bring the knees in close. Place one arm underneath of your head. The eyes are closed and you just like stay in this little cocoon of a shape to stay within that space and that energy that you've cultivated during this morning's practice. And then with the support of your hands, and you can even keep your eyes closed as you do this, you bring yourself up into your comfortable seat. Meaning eventually, once you get there with the hands connected into heart center, maybe the palms are touching, or maybe your palms are stacked on top of each other, connected to your heart as you feel your heartbeat. And then we'll take one last breath together. Inhale. Out the mouth, let it go. I honor each of you for committing to your practice and to your body. And thank you so much for sharing that practice with me.